Welcome to The Power Within, the podcast where we explore leadership, personal growth, and the dynamics that shape success. I'm Keith Power, and each week I sit down with inspiring individuals who share insights on leading with impact, building resilience, and unlocking potential. Through their experiences, we'll uncover the mindset and strategies that drive meaningful growth. Whether you're looking to evolve as a leader or gain new perspectives, this podcast is here to guide you. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Riaz Mehta, a trailblazer in the media industry, founder of Imagine TV, All Rights, and RiteStream, as we explore more stories of resilience, growth, and the power of determination. Riaz has revolutionized the way we consume entertainment, developing groundbreaking, Emmy-nominated TV formats that have captivated audiences across the world. His entrepreneurial journey is a testament to resilience, innovation, and the power of storytelling. In this episode, we'll dive into Riaz's journey, exploring how he built a media empire, adapted to industry disruptions, and cultivated an entrepreneurial mindset that drives creativity and success. Let's get started. Riaz, welcome to The Power Within.
Thanks, Keith, for having me here today.
Take us back to the beginning.
The very beginning?
The very beginning. What inspired you to enter the world of media?
It was almost accidental, but I think, a little bit about my background. I started my career in tech initially. Then when I was kind of done with that journey after our company IPO'd, and which was a fascinating journey in its own right, I always felt that I had a creative streak in me, and people would always said that, you should do something creative. And I didn't know what it would be. So initially, I dabbled in fashion for a little while. I started a fashion label.
I never thought you'd stop dabbling in fashion.
And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't making a ton of money. And in the meantime, I had friends in the entertainment industry. A friend of mine used to manage an Aussie band called INXS. I kind of got involved with what he was doing and relaunching the career of the band via television format. And then I thought, this is really interesting. And I got to know folks like Mark Burnett. He's the creator of Survivor, The Apprentice, and went on to do a lot of other big reality TV formats, one of the best-known producers in the industry. And so I got to know Mark and saw what he was doing in the US, and I got fascinated with that, and I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind doing the same thing in Asia, and bringing large-scale reality TV formats to Asia. Having said that, I knew nothing about making television, of course. So I kind of dived right into it, and I said, you know what, over a glass of wine with a friend, I said, I've decided I'm going to be a TV producer.
As you do.
As you do.
How did you make the jump from your home in Sydney, Australia to Singapore? Was that the process that brought you here?
I came to Singapore because of the tech company I was with at the time. And we were expanding our business. We had just done a very successful IPO. Our company hit like $1 billion valuation. And we were thinking, okay, let's go and conquer Asia. And that's they sent me across to build a business in Asia, which I did. And then we got acquired by Telstra in Australia. And post-acquisition, I've never been a big corporate kind of guy.
No shit, Sherlock.
Even in my corporate days, I used to have long hair, and people said, "What are you doing here, dude?" It's like, and
I've seen the photos.
You've seen the photos, So I ended up doing a couple of years with Telstra, and then I thought, okay, I'm kind of done with that, and then I took a break, and that's when I was still in Singapore. I loved Asia, and I thought I'm having the best time of my life. I'd just gone through a divorce at that point as well, and Asia is fantastic. I decided I had a lot of friends here, so I decided to stay in Singapore, and so I started my fashion and media journey here.
How was the environment for startups back then? I know Singapore works very hard on that now, but how was it then? Was it still a good environment?
It was practically unknown.
Okay.
Startups weren't quite the thing, and trailblazing was, not easy. So getting something from 0 to 1, extremely tough.
And when was this? What year?
This was it was mid-2000s, around 2005, 2006, thereabouts, yeah.
20 years has gone by in a flash, right?
It has indeed.
And I've known you for more than half of that time.
Pretty much, mate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So tell us about the formats that you went into and the journey that took you into TV. As you said, you had no experience. So what did you do? How did you overcome that lack of experience initially?
Mark Burnett wrote a book that's called Jump In. And I had read that book.
Right. So you jumped in.
And I jumped in. I want to make a TV show. And I talked to Mark and some of his people and said, I want to license one of your formats. And a show called Contender, actually, with Sylvester Stallone. I licensed that for Asia. I knew nothing about how to make television. And initially I thought, I'm just going to make the show. So I started self-funding it, which in hindsight, and as most producers will say, is a really terrible idea.
Yeah.
I went on a wild journey there. And initially I thought I'll make the show in Thailand. I was doing it with because I was bringing it to Asia, I thought I'll do it with the sport of Muay Thai, and which seemed like a natural thing to do. And so doing business in Thailand was not easy, and I didn't know much about doing business in Thailand at all. Then ultimately I brought the show into Singapore, and I actually innovated the business model that once I realized that the show would cost me millions and millions of dollars to make, and it wasn't wise to keep applying more money into it myself. I adapted a model that Burnett developed in the US, and that's how we got The Apprentice show funded in the first place. So what Mark did was, with every episode of The Apprentice, he would approach a brand, and the brand would give him money for that episode and basically got the show funded. I thought, why not I do the same? And branded content was an idea that was completely unknown in Asia. And so I was trailblazing, I was pitching it to brands, and ultimately we actually got support from the Singapore government. That was pretty phenomenal, like Singapore Tourism Board supporting a brand new format, never been done. And that was quite a journey getting to that point, of course, to get their support, and plus a number of other brands. And that's kind of how the journey got kickstarted. And then I realized that branded content was the way to go, because ultimately what a brand wants is exposure for themselves. It's marketing, essentially, when you're integrated into the format of a TV show, into the storyline. And it's the most authentic form of marketing as well, that viewers can watch content and they can, if they see a product integrated into the storyline, they go, maybe I should use that product. And it's proven now, a couple of decades later. And so I went on to create a number of other formats in my own original formats, shows like The Apartment, Fit for Fashion, Challenger, that were funded through brand partners, and achieved a lot of success with that. But the great thing about that is that I got to control the narrative. It wasn't a network telling me that this is how you got to produce a show.
Yep.
I was able to keep that authenticity as well in terms of the storytelling, and also the way we integrated the brands in the formats. We ensured that it was authentic to the story itself, and it wasn't in your face. And we did studies around it with Nielsen, and we got clear proof that there's a massive impact for the brands, and has a direct impact on sales and so forth. And that's why brands kept coming back to us as well over the years.
Tell us a little bit about that show. And I am familiar with it, but I don't think everyone might be. Tell us a little bit about who did you approach, which brands, and how did they knit into the storyline of The Apartment? As
the title of the show goes, it's about homes, right? And often the title is one of the most important things in a show. It's like, it's got to hook you. And it's got to tell you what this is going to be about.
Like The Power Within.
The Power Within, you got it, 100%. I was pitching another format called The Biggest Loser, and I approached a property developer in Sime Darby in Malaysia. And I was talking to the head of marketing, and he said, look, at that point, the company had lost some money, and he said, if I attach my brand to a show like Biggest Loser, that's just not going to go down well. So, given the loss we have just declared. However, that we've got a whole bunch of apartments that we'd like to push, and the inventory hasn't been moving too well. And can we create something around that? And so the request actually came from the brand. And so I came up with the format, and then I pitched it back to him and I said, what do you think of this format? It's a reality TV show. It's basically taking contestants from across the region, across the globe, that compete to win a brand new apartment and in interior design challenges, basically. And he really liked the idea, and then we kind of workshopped that, and we fine-tuned the concept over several months. Then I did a presentation to the board. They liked the idea, and that's how that show got greenlit. And then, of course, the rest is history. We went on to make 7 seasons of that show. Yeah. We did several seasons with the same property developer. And then later on, Dulux came on board and kind of took on that main sponsor position in the series, because paint brand is very natural to interior design. And we had a fantastic partnership with that brand. And I think you were at Dulux one time as well, so you know a little bit about that journey.
I worked for Dulux owner Axon Nobel, and what I thought at the time, why couldn't they do that for automotive so I can be a judge on your show as well?
I wish we had done that.
Yeah, we should have done that, that's for sure. That's the apartment, and for those Brits who are watching or listening, your main judge on there was Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, and a very flamboyant guy.
Very flamboyant and very intelligent human being, and incredibly creative as well. When we did that show, that kind of boosted his career, because his career was flatlining for a little while, and then we discovered him, and that partnership worked really well.
And we talk about creativity. I always say I don't have a creative bone in my body, but I'd just like to claim right now, I gave you the finish for Fit for Fashion. Do you recall that conversation? And I never got paid for that.
Well, here we are.
Here we go. So what were some of the early challenges then? Because this all sounds like it was going along swimmingly, and I'm sure it wasn't, other than depleting your own funds and then pivoting. What were the other challenges of TV early years for you?
People look at successes, and people talk about the successes. People don't talk about the failures. And every journey has the failures built into that journey. I haven't seen anyone that just kind of went out the gate and said, woohoo, this is it, overnight success and riches and fame and everything. So the challenges were manifold. Like initially when I started off with the contender format in the TV industry, it's like investing my own money into it and knowing that my bank account was depleting day after day with no sight of revenues coming in, potential of actually losing a very big relationship with Mark Burnett if I didn't pull that off. If I didn't pull it off, not knowing what the fuck I was going to do after that.
Yeah. Fair enough. But that's pretty good motivation,
right?
That's
good motivation in that journey. Like we had commenced filming, and we had fighters and everyone kind of lined up ready to shoot, and we didn't have money to finish the show.
Oh dear.
That's a challenge. And then pulling it all together in the last minute and ensuring that the show must go on. There are heart-stopping moments in the journey where it's the dark night of the soul. You say, how am I going to keep going the next day, literally? And pulling out all stops and tapping into every relationship that you have while still smiling to the rest of the world and going, internally you're saying, I'm dead. It's over.
So that was just to stay still. That was just to get out there what you wanted to get out there. But you've gone on leaps and bounds since then. What did you do to adjust then to stay ahead of the curve in definitely an environment which is continuously evolving, right? You can't just stay still and rest on your laurels. So how did you change gear then?
Really means you have got to be tapped into the trends, into what's happening, and also reading the pulse of the market. A lot has to do with intuition, believe it or not. I think season 6 of The Apartment, and my mind was already kind of going, okay, the environment in Asia is changing. Brands aren't spending the kind of money, they aren't spending money on regional marketing budgets. I kind of sense that we have to be doing something different and something more innovative. And that's kind of when I came up with the concept for my one of my current businesses, which is called All Rights, which is a marketplace for film and TV content. Because I was creating all these TV shows, and often adversity kind of pushes us into innovation. And I had a distribution company that we worked with in the US that was supposedly selling our shows, and they sold our shows, but they never paid us, which was really, really painful.
I bet.
And I'm talking about very significant sums of money, that could sink the business if we didn't get paid. And that was kind of the birth of All Rights, because I thought there's got to be a better way of doing things.
Before you jump to that, because I really want to explore All Rights, it is so unique. But getting into legal scrapes, especially when they're transatlantic with the US, can quite literally sink a business.
Yeah.
So, did you see any of that coming? If you did,
I didn't see it coming.
Right. And if you didn't,
it kind of blindsides you, right?
How did you adapt yourself then in this environment?
So you get hit with it and you go, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I can fight a battle and I can spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions, fighting the battle. Or where do I divert this energy to?
Yeah.
And in my life, I've chosen, I guess, the other path, that legal battles, they're expensive, and the cost is not just money, but it's an emotional cost that's attached to it as well. And even when you're right, the cost is very high.
And the cost of distraction for your team.
Yeah, exactly. And the cost of the business. I've always chosen to find the other path, that, okay, how do I turn this into a positive? And that's kind of how I channel my energies more into All Rights, rather than fighting a legal battle trying to recover funds from a company that didn't pay.
One, you're creative naturally, and two, you've just described how you then divert your energy away from those negative things into more creativity. But how do you get your team of people to have innovation and creativity at their core as well? They don't have the same motivation as you, right?
I'm a strong believer in empowering people. And, in a team, you'll get all kinds of people. Some people need to be told what to do. And you need to figure that out fairly quickly, that who these people are. And there are other people that actually thrive on being creative. And these people you got to empower and say, you know what, go and experiment. And if you fail, that's okay. And there's a cost to that failure, but I think there's a much bigger opportunity if they succeed. So really giving them the rope to do it, and the leeway to do it, but also nurturing them on that journey. Not just saying, go and figure it out and then see what happens. But in my experience, it's about go and figure it out. But let's stay in touch, and maybe I can help nurture the journey along and share experiences. I feel that helps bring out the best in people. I do that with my current team now, and they'll say, hey, I'll give it. I know we're probably going to sidetrack. And they said, you want to experiment with AI dubbing technology? And I said, we're not truly an AI company, but sure, let's go and do it.
But you're there already, right?
Yeah.
There you go. But how do you then, as a leader, how do you balance this creative vision, the creativity that you try to empower the team with business strategy? How do you get that fine balance, and quite literally making the money?
It's a fine art, because the creative side, and as a producer, will say, hey, let's create this amazing show with these great sets and everything, and this is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. And the budget says you got to do this. And, commercially what's viable as well. And it's always about keeping the business hat on to say, I want to make sure this thing is a commercial success and a creative success. But if it's not a commercial success, then the business is going to die. And really having your eye on the ball on how you manage budgets and the cash flows of the business, because without that, you will not have a team. You will not be able to do the next thing. That's the vision. So always ensuring that I keep eye on the ball in terms of where the finances are for the business and ensuring that the business is sustainable. And within that, still having creative freedom to execute what I want to. It is a juggling act. And I think this is where, especially in creative fields, producers struggle because, a director wants to go big. They want to do all of these things. And not a lot of film projects actually die midway because they've gone all out in certain aspects. Now they can't finish the film. And then they lose control of the project because anyone that comes and bails them out takes control. And then that's it. The crown jewel is gone. So it's really about finding that fine balance to say, go and produce something amazing. And I think my latest show, CryptoKnights, is an example of that, part of that show is self-funded and, under limited budget, but the show looks like it's, it was made by Amazon or Netflix for multi-million dollars. So it's really about finding that, juggling things in a way that you execute your creative vision, but within financial constraints.
I was fascinated watching the Oscars the other day. The big winner was a $6 million budget movie. That was really a wake-up call for the big studios, I would say. So you are used to this kind of constraints and still getting good product out, right?
That goes to show that it's about creativity and innovation. It's not about how much money you can spend.
Still about a storyline.
Yeah, it's about storytelling.
For sure.
And great storytelling will always win out.
Get to All Rights, and it's hard to keep up with you, it really is. But All Rights, how that was born, it sounded like you have this difficult situation in the US where someone was supposed to sell your rights. They did, but they didn't pay you. That is what caused you to look at TV and film rights as an opportunity, or like you were forced in that? Is that what you're saying?
I realized I was never going to get my money from these guys, right? And during that Christmas break, I thought, this is really fucked up. I got to change this. And how do I empower creators that this doesn't happen? And how do I democratize content syndication, basically? And, literally I wrote up a paper and I showed it to a couple of people all within a week. And when I got positive feedback from folks within the industry, I thought, okay, I'm onto something. But then bringing something to life from that piece of paper, that's a journey.
Yeah.
And it's still a journey. It's an ongoing journey.
I'm privileged to have been at these junctures with you. You've shared with me as we've gone along. So I've watched your creative process. I've watched you bounce back. You're an unbelievable guy, and that's why I was so happy to have you here today. The only thing with being a friend of yours, Riaz, is keeping up with you, for goodness sake. So whilst All Rights is flying along, growing, going to be IPO'd, I'm presuming, but you're onto something else already, right?
My brain cannot stop.
I know.
I think I have a shower and I come up with a new business idea. And I go, ooh, how about that?
So what's the latest thing right now? Not next, but right now.
Even the All Rights journey was not easy. And even while I was building All Rights, there were trials and tribulations. With All Rights, I was solving the problem of content syndication and how to monetize things that have already been made. But then I thought the hardest thing for a producer is to actually bring the idea to life in the first place. And how do we do that? I got interested in blockchain technology about 10 years back, just over 10 years actually. when this thing called Bitcoin was floating around in little circles and you had to have a secret handshake and knock on doors to actually learn what this thing was.
Right.
And I had become involved with that. And then circa 2017, I started thinking about how do we apply this technology to the entertainment industry. I wrote a white paper back in 2017, and then fast forward a couple of years from then, I launched RiteStream, which is basically crowdfunding platform for film and TV content on the blockchain, essentially. So the idea is that creators have fan bases and they have communities around them. Then how do we empower the creator and the community to come together and to bring creative projects to life? So essentially, the community participates in these creative projects, that they get a sense of ownership of the next film project, or the next TV series, and the creator gets the funding that they need to bring these to life. So that's what RiteStream is all about. But then while I was doing that, okay, why don't we have our own streaming platform on the blockchain, of course, right?
Right.
So then we went ahead and created RiteStream Plus, which is Netflix on the blockchain, essentially. But with an innovative twist. It's not just Netflix on the blockchain, because that'd be too boring. And so we thought, again, how do we kind of engage the community? Because I'm all about democratization and not just having power in the hands of a few, which is what has happened with studios typically.
Yes.
That it's a handful that control the narrative. But how do we shift that power back into the hands of the many? And in doing that, what we do with RiteStream Plus, the revenues that are generated from advertising, so it's free to watch, and we get ad revenues, and then we share that with the community. So when you watch the content, then you'll automatically share in the revenues that are generated. But that creates a really interesting virtuous cycle, because now people say, I want to watch more content because I'm going to make more money, which means we make more money, and there's more advertising revenue that comes in. More people get engaged, and the wheel keeps growing bigger and bigger. So that's how RiteStream Plus came into being. And then, of course, when I built the crowdfunding platform, I thought, okay, I've got to drink my own Kool-Aid. And so the first project that got funded on that platform, at least partially funded, was CryptoKnights, which is like a Shark Tank for crypto. And then when I was building that format, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if people could actually invest in these projects too? Like you watch Shark Tank, you see an amazing product, but
Why do the
lean-back
sharks get
experience.
all the opportunities,
Well,
right?
exactly, yeah. Yeah, because why not me as a viewer participate in that? And so now we're opening up a gateway for the community to say, you know what, Brock Pierce invested in that particular project. I can invest in that too. So that's kind of how the ideas come up, right? So one thing leads on to the next, to the next, to the next. But the key thing...
You make it sound so natural. So why isn't everyone else doing it, huh?
The key thing in business is execution.
Yeah.
And everybody can have ideas. You can have a million ideas. And, you know, I've had challenges in different businesses, even in All Rights. It's like, came up with All Rights, and I had a team working for me, and I had a CEO, and then this guy decides to go and set up in competition to me. And that was, punch in the belly, like you wouldn't believe. But these things happen. It's ultimately about execution. Anybody can take an idea, try and copy an idea, but if you do not know how to innovate...
How's he doing now?
Don't believe they exist anymore.
Oh, okay, just checking. But like you said, just stealing the idea and running off is not all. You've got to be able to execute on it, right?
It's all about execution.
Yeah.
It's about execution and knowing when to pivot. Because in every business, whenever you set up, you're going to have challenges on that journey. You'll find, initially you think you've got product market fit, but you don't. And then, okay, that's not real product market fit, so what is? And then tweaking things, it's like fine-tuning the engine of a car till the car is humming along nicely. Yeah. So It's knowing when to do that. And it's an art and a science.
So what keeps you motivated and resilient through all these ups and downs, Riaz?
I don't believe there's anything such as failure. That I believe that everything is a learning, and whatever happens leads us to our higher purpose, our higher goal. And I'm always looking for what that is, Where does this, the next step on the journey take me? The next footing in the hill, what's the next peak? What's the next peak? And I'm fascinated by that, so I never stop. And I think I'd probably die if I stopped.
Well, you and I've had that discussion since retiring 5 years ago. It felt like I died. You've got to keep engaged, right? You've got to keep your brain. But yours is like hyperactive.
My team sometimes gets frustrated. You're going, okay, what's next? We're just onto this thing now. What are you innovating next, right? For me, when I come up with an idea or a business venture, then people that are synergistic to that automatically get attracted to it.
Yeah.
And, new teams come together and old teams continue doing what they're doing or fall apart or whatever, right? And as one grows, then the right people get attracted to you as part of that growth.
You touched earlier again on AI.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see the intersection of AI and storytelling and in the various industries that you're in currently, or various parts of the industry you're in right now?
Our industry is going through a massive transformation. Today, literally, you can write a script using AI, you can create a song using AI, you can create the movie using AI. And that's getting better and better every single day. The future of the industry is where I believe it needs to be with the creators. That the tools that are being innovated today, the AI tools, will empower these creators that they will not need tens of millions of dollars to make this amazing movie. They won't need $100 million to make an avatar or $200 million to make an avatar. They'll be able to do it on their home computers, literally. The limits are only what's in their imagination. With AI, we'll have actors living forever.
Right, yeah.
Literally. We'll have musicians.
But will they be paid forever?
And they will be paid forever because of the legal frameworks that are being put in place.
Okay.
Musicians will live forever as well. Michael Jackson will have new songs being released, which I'll really enjoy.
Scary thought, though.
I know.
So,
exactly.
And perhaps not in exactly the same vein, but I went to see the ABBA in London. Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal. And if you've not seen it, strongly suggest. I was there. I was watching ABBA of the 70s. It really felt the audience.
It's a holographic thing, right?
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Of course, they were involved and their voices are there, but the use of holographics, artificial intelligence, all these things to bring together that kind of thing. So what you're saying, though, that the thing that will still matter will be the human creativity and the storytelling. That will still be the core.
I believe that will always be there. That I don't believe there's a substitute for who we are. Yeah. Because who we are is not just intelligence, it's a lot more than that. And I think that creativity cannot be explained. And I think a computer can only replicate so much, and it can find interesting ways of doing things, but it can never innovate to that level that the human mind can.
Do you see, as Elon Musk does, this pure interaction of AI and people, like literally embedded, etc.? What's your thoughts on that? Is that like science fiction? Cyborgs, yeah. My biggest fear.
I don't think it's science fiction, unfortunately.
Right.
I believe that'll be a reality, in the not too distant future. And I hope it becomes a good reality that we're leveraging the power of technology and the human brain to actually go to the next level. And I hope that it'll be used for good.
That relies on good actors, right?
Totally.
People with the right mindset. We've known from history there are people who have a different view of that. So the future is exciting, but also a little scary, right?
It is. And I think as business people, as creators, we have to embrace the future, but we also are the guardians of the future.
Good point.
We need to act responsibly in shaping what is to come.
Let's get back to today now, because I can feel my heart rate going up with worries about cyborgs coming along. What advice would you give, Riaz, to aspiring entrepreneurs and especially creatives in looking to make an impact in media? What advice would you give?
I think not just creatives, but any entrepreneur. Business is a journey, and success is not a destination. It is part of that journey. Never ever give up, because the minute you give up, then it's game over. And it's about believing in your heart and your vision that you have, that there's always a way, that there will be dark times. There'll be times that you think, oh my God, this is the end. But it's never the end. As long as you're breathing, it's not the end. And you got to believe that you will find a way. And then as long as you keep believing that, and you keep trying everything that you have with every cell of your body, you will succeed. Success is assured. In my books, failure is not an option. So sure, there will be things that will appear to be failures, but they're just lessons on the journey. But success is assured. And you've got to have that mindset.
Real life lessons are as valuable, if not more so, than academic learning. They're real. You feel the pain. And academic learning costs money as well. So you may as well have some fun while you're learning, right?
Life is the best university, right?
For sure.
And it's very expensive.
I know. The one thing I think your wife will thank me for, I was the one who talked you out to buying a boat. Do you remember that?
You did. Thank you.
There was one of those crazy moments, and I just brought my lack of creativity and my very logical brain to bear and say, you know how much it costs, you know how long it'll be used, et cetera, et cetera. But we have had some fun in renting boats, right?
Absolutely.
Which is still fun. So there's another way to enjoy that. So the entrepreneurial journey, any regrets?
I don't have regrets, no. I feel that every step on that journey was as it was meant to be. And could I have done things differently? Sure. I think we all can. But did I do it wrong? No, I don't think so. People think it's about how much money you make and, name and fame and whatever, but it's not. It's about the personal growth that you get from that journey. Because
money helps.
Money helps, of course. Sure. And, I love money. I'm driven by money. But it's what I've learned along the way and the person that I've become as a result. That's what I take with me. That's what I pass on to my kids. And of course, tons of money would be great for the kids too. But it's those things, the values and the life experiences that that stay with you and that you can pass on to the next generation.
Real segue here. Why and when did you cut the ponytail? I've seen the pictures, right?
The first time, there's been a couple of times.
Okay. I didn't know that.
The first time was in my corporate life, and back then, my then boss actually said to me, you've hit a glass ceiling. If you don't cut your ponytail, you aren't going anywhere in this company. I've always been ambitious, and I said, if that's what it takes, I'll do it. And so I did it. The next time was kind of a bit crazy because one of the hosts of my show, Jamie Deary, said, mate, you know what? I think it'd make you look so much younger. You should just go and cut the ponytail. And he took me to the barbershop.
I had an idea for a barbershop come gentleman's club for quite some time. And when I met you, you were the one who said, do it. And I went, but I can't. And you said, well, I'll invest. So what more could you have? But I was still afraid. I waited probably another year or two until I was pushed a little bit. But Jermyn Street is still going today, and you were one of the original investors in Jermyn Street. But you gave me that required nudge. And corporate life can restrict you in terms of your entrepreneurial thinking and your ability and desire to make change, right? You jumped out of that, fully jumped out.
Corporate life boxes people in a lot of ways. And the first time you make that jump, it's very scary. Once you have made that jump, the next one is easier, and the next one gets easier. So every venture kind of gets easier. And now I'm at a point I say, I'll try that. And it's now I dabble in a lot of different things in and out of media. So,
right.
Yeah.
But media is still your sort of guiding star.
Media is 100% my guiding star. And it's what I'm passionate about. But I will invest in other things, you know. I've got investments in different tech companies, and, you know, if I like to back founders, I like to back friends as well. And sometimes that doesn't work too well, but yeah. But I do.
Great. What's your one philosophy or mantra with regard to business and life?
My mantra is to be authentic, to be true to who you are, and whether that's in business or in life, and to live and breathe that truth, because people see through that. And I do believe that's one of the keys to success.
That's a great one. And one other one, a personal one I wanted to ask you about. Are you still jetting off to Los Angeles to do your clothes shopping?
I do. I buy everything in LA.
I know.
Yep, this is from Rodeo Drive and everything.
Yeah, that's where we're different. I'm Marks and Spencer's and you're LA kind of guy. I want to thank you for being here today, Riaz. And I've admired you from, first of all, from afar and from very close up. And I know that you will not stop innovating and creating quite literally until they put you in that box. And I suspect you'll find an opportunity in the afterlife to keep doing it.
I might jump out of the box, you never know.
You never know. All right. Thank you very much, Riaz, for sharing your thoughts with us today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Keith. It's been a real pleasure. I've really enjoyed our conversation and look forward to more in future.
Thanks for listening to The Power Within. I hope today's episode inspired you to grow, lead, and create the success you deserve. If you enjoyed the podcast, share it with someone who might find it valuable. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Join us next time as we explore more stories of leadership and personal growth. And remember that setbacks are just stepping stones to something greater. Until then, stay strong, stay positive, and keep believing in the power within.